Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today, I'm talking about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. For those of you who are new to this channel, I just want to say that Kirby is my favorite Nintendo character, but he doesn't necessarily make my favorite Nintendo games. Although I do really like his games, I think, more than others do. This is Kirby's introduction into a 3D space. So he's had 3D assets in previous games, but he's going along a 2D side-scrolling plane. In this game, he can move along on the Z-axis. It's not like a big open world sandboxy kind of environment. Think more similar to Super Mario 3D World, where you're more going down channeled hallways. Maybe Crash Bandicoot is another good example here. Right off the bat, it gives you difficulty options, which is something new to Kirby games. It might have been in Star Allies, I can't quite remember, but it's basically like you have your Fury mode and then you have your casual mode. I'm not sure if those are exactly the right names for those difficulty modes, but at first I got really excited because I thought that meant that I could play Kirby on a more difficult level, because if you are new to Kirby games, they are more directed towards an entry level difficulty for gamers who don't have the quickest reaction times. But I just want to say that Fury mode plays more like a regular Kirby game would, and then the casual mode is for an even easier mode for like more novice gamers. So for the most part, this game itself is relatively easy. I love the cinematics. Nintendo is no stranger to great looking cinematics, and I especially like the intro cinematic where Kirby, he inhales a car, and we'll get more into mouthful mode later, but he's cruising along this post-apocalyptic world, and it's got this music going on. It's very anime. It really sets the mood for what is in store for the rest of the game. So yes, this game does take place in a post-apocalyptic world, not unlike our own Earth, and essentially Kirby gets like sucked in through this black hole vortex and is brought to this world, but strangely enough, there are no humans on this world, and it looks like humans have abandoned this world a long time ago, because all the buildings are decrepit and have vines all over them and have just been long abandoned. So it seems like the only life forms left on this planet are these animals known as the Beast Pack, and they are these cute little fox-looking things and penguins and alligators and snakes, and it's basically like all the humans are gone for some reason and the animals are left over. For some reason, they are set on trapping all of the Waddle Dees, and so it is up to Kirby to save them all. And along the way, he is joined by a little fairy-looking chinchilla character by the name of Elfilin. Now, Elfilin doesn't do much. Maybe just in the bottom corner, you'll see a text saying where Elfilin is suggesting we go next. But other than that, she doesn't serve much of a purpose. At least on a mechanical level, Elfilin does play a role in the story, what little there is. And just like most Kirby games, the lore and the story of this game is front-loaded and back-loaded. So while you're playing through the main game, not many plot points are going to happen. However, this being a relatively new game, I feel like I'm going to keep things pretty vague. So yes, you are tasked with saving all of the Waddle Dees, and these kind of act like golden coins in a regular platforming level. So every time you go into a level, there are several Waddle Dees hidden throughout the level that you can do little side things for, and just solve little puzzles in order to rescue them. And when you fulfill certain objectives, you will also rescue Waddle Dees. And this is similar to Yoshi's Crafted World, where the objectives themselves are hidden until you either discover them on your own, or if you beat the level, it will reveal one hidden objective, which is frustrating for those who like to complete a level and do it efficiently so you can do it all in one run. If you don't know what the objective is, there's a chance that you can miss it and you will have to replay the level again. As of this recording, I have not uncovered all of the Waddle Dees. I decided to just go through the level and get as many as I can on purpose, and if I miss some of these objectives or some of these hidden Waddle Dees, then I decided I can go back later if I choose to do so. And I think I will play this afterwards and try to shoot for the 100% completion record here, because I really do enjoy playing this game. I just rolled the final credits, so I thought I'd get my thoughts out there. Another little collectible that you can shoot for are these little figurines, and you can find them hidden throughout the level. And then there's also this little gotcha lottery kind of thing where you buy a token and you could get a random figurine out of it. I didn't play around too much with this. If I saw a figurine out in the level, I would grab it, but I didn't spend any of my coins trying to get all of the figurines, so I actually can't say if you get anything if you do get them all or not. They just didn't seem that interesting to me. One of the cool things about these figurines, though, is if you do get a figurine of like a big boss or maybe a power-up, it will say some of the backstory about like the bosses themselves. So as far as the gameplay elements, like I said, this is in 3D for the first time, which is very exciting for Kirby. And you might be wondering, because Kirby can essentially fly, you might be wondering if that makes the game too easy. And they severely nerfed Kirby's hovering ability here, where you can only move up a set distance from the platform that you jumped off of, if that makes any sense. So hovering is mostly used for moving horizontally rather than vertically. They still intend for you to platform up to the intended platform. But yes, it does make platforming significantly easier being able to hover over before you dedicate yourself to a jump. This game also introduces a dodge roll, which I love that just every game feels like it needs to add this dodge roll. And just like in Breath of the Wild, if you do perform a perfect dodge, then it will slow down time and you can do a strong attack using one of your abilities. This is so beneficial when you're playing against some of these late game bosses that actually do pack quite a punch, because it almost makes the game even easier, but you do kind of need it for this late game content that is more difficult. Yes, I did hint at a mouthful mode, and this basically lets Kirby inhale a large object that he can't quite stomach and fit in his mouth, and he's just kind of wrapped around it. So there will be like a rusted car, and Kirby will be stretched over the top of this car, and now basically you are driving this car. Or there's a vending machine that Kirby basically swallows over, and he can shoot soda cans out at enemies. There's like a traffic cone, and he can flip upside down and dive into the ground and slam on other enemies. Just little things like that. And you can use these mouthful mode objects only in certain times, and you use them to solve puzzles and fight bosses, but it's mostly for puzzles. And then you can tell that you are done using that mouthful mode object when there is a high platform, because all of the mouthful mode objects don't allow you to move up very far, so you will have to disengage from that object in order to climb the ladder or jump and hover up to the higher platform. It's not necessarily like regular copy abilities where you can use them as long as you hold on to them and don't drop them. On the topic of copy abilities, one of the coolest features I think that was introduced in this game is the ability to upgrade your copy abilities. So let's say the sword copy ability, for instance, if you gather enough of the correct resources like the coins and these little star tokens, then you can upgrade your sword. So every time you grab a sword from now on, it will be that upgraded version. And you can always revert back to the other version if you prefer the first version rather than like the second or third tier of this copy ability. But I think these upgrades make these abilities super strong and awesome, and they even affect like the way that Kirby looks. So the sword ability, for instance, the regular one is the little Link hat that you're used to when Kirby has his sword ability, and then it upgrades to maybe like this big huge Viking guy that is reminiscent of one of the mini bosses who uses a sword, and then you can upgrade it to a Meta Knight sword, and you have a Meta Knight mask on. And all of the copy abilities have this, and that's why I think that I'm okay with the limited amount of copy abilities available at this game, because one, you do have all the mouthful mode abilities when they are available to you, but you can also upgrade pretty much all. I think there's like 12 copy abilities, and you can upgrade them all. And even after you have upgraded them to their strongest form, you can then use these star tokens to power up those copy abilities to do even more damage. Now, there might be some way to get some of these star tokens in more capacity, but the main way that I found you are able to get them is by doing these little, just these side off things off of the map that you choose your levels. Just little things that introduce copy abilities and situations that you might want to use those copy abilities. So let's say the ice ability, where you ice skate along the ground. You can go to this little subsection, and this isn't anything new to this Kirby game. Star Allies had a similar scenario here, but you get the ice ability and the floor will be covered in lava, and then you'll realize, oh, if I use this ice ability, I can skate over the lava in order to get to my objective. And these things are timed, and I never ran out of time for this. If you do meet the time limit under a certain threshold, you do get awarded more coins. I never found myself hurting for coins because I never bought any of these figurines or items or anything like that, so I didn't feel like I was ever hurting for coins. But if you just want that little objective to shoot for when you do these side-off things, then you can try and hit that time limit. Kind of wish that the copy upgrade ability worked on an experience-based system, where the more that you use a certain copy ability, you might accrue experience for it, and then you can level it up. As it stands right now, the only way to upgrade a copy ability is have those resources that I mentioned earlier, and you also need to find the corresponding scroll hidden throughout a certain level for that copy ability. So if I really love this ice ability, I think it's really cool to skate around, then I need to find this scroll to upgrade that ice ability somewhere in a specific level. Let's say the third scroll for this ice ability could be hidden in the late game, but I would want to upgrade it early game. I'm just out of luck until I get to that late game level to find that scroll. So I think that an experience and level based system might have been a little cooler, because like you're using the copy abilities more and you're leveling them up, so obviously you show preference in that copy ability, and it would be exciting to level it up and then you could upgrade it that way. But that might just be my own personal preference. It's a pretty short game, like most Kirby games are. I want to say it took me maybe like 7 hours just to play through it the way I was, where I wasn't specifically going back to levels to get all of the Waddle Dees that I missed. But I would play all of these side-off things to show off abilities and get those tokens, and play through the level regularly trying to get all the Waddle Dees on the way. Yeah, it took me maybe like 7 or 8 hours to roll the first initial credits. However, this game does have a rather significant, beefy extra content that you can play through. Yeah, you can go back and get all of the extra Waddle Dees if you have missed any of them, and there are mini games that you can play through just like any other Kirby game. There's like a one where you have to you're basically working like at a food truck and you have to serve the Waddle Dees the corresponding food that they're asking for. There's like a tilt and tumble mini game. Then I think there's one more that I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but there's also some significant end game content after the first credits roll, and this takes quite a long time. They're basically like remixed levels of all of the levels that you've already played through, just with more enemies. Now this isn't anything like in Super Mario Odyssey, like the Darker Side of the Moon. It's not like super challenging aside from the beefed up bosses that you will face, and it's basically like remixed versions of all of the final bosses that you squared off against. And some of them did give me a run for my money, especially some of these late game bosses at the very end of this post-game stuff. It just made me wish that the rest of the Kirby game was up to this level of difficulty, but I understand that's not really what the developers of these Kirby games are shooting for. And that's fine, like not everything has to be tailored towards my taste. I really do love the tradition that at the end game bosses of all the Kirby games are these huge, grotesque, eldritch horror end bosses, and it's just such like this contrast to the cute, fluffy beast pack enemies that you're fighting at the beginning, and there's happy music and it's all colorful and sunshiny, and then like once you get to the end game you're like, whoa, this is intense. This is like an Elden Ring boss or something like that. And these bosses themselves are actually pretty challenging too, so I think that's more of the content that I do like, and I think it makes it seem more ramped up after playing through a whole lighthearted game of this Kirby, and then at the end you just get that like night and day difference. It makes it really fun. The music is fun, it's great, it's kind of poppy, not necessarily something that I'm really striving for, not something that I would listen to after I'm done playing through this game, but you know, just like any other Kirby game, it's pretty good, and I especially like the little lyric songs that they have at the very beginning of this game, that pretty much this beat of this song persists throughout the rest of the game, just remixed to tailor the world that you're in. Visually, it looks really nice, really colorful, really fun. Performance-wise, it doesn't run the best, especially like the objects that are even just slightly in the distance start to look quite choppy and claymated, but it doesn't like really affect the gameplay personally. I don't mind it, at least. I'm not like a huge PC or PlayStation 5 gamer, so I don't even know what 4K looks like. So that kind of frame rate stuff doesn't really bug me too much as long as it plays right, which it does. Unfortunately, the amiibos don't do too much in this game. They just give you like some coins or maybe a little temporary power-up boost, nothing too crazy. I think I'd be asking too much for some additional costumes or something like that, or maybe like a Waddle Dee indicator to show you where hidden Waddle Dees are in the game, like little clues or something like that. But no, yeah, even though they did re-release a couple of these Kirby amiibos, they don't do much in this game. So you're not missing out if you don't partake in the figurine collectibles like I do. Overall, it's a really charming and fun game, but that's nothing new to me. I've always enjoyed the Kirby games to a certain degree. I think I will give this game a 4 out of 5. I think it's great, and the reception that I'm reading and hearing online is a lot of other people agree with me, which I'm absolutely thrilled about. I just gotta say though, like, where was this love for Kirby Star Allies? Because when that game came out, everyone was poo-pooing on that for being too easy and too simplistic and boring. I mean, it's kind of like Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's just on a 2D space rather than a 3D space. They're both Kirby games. They both play pretty similarly. In fact, I would argue that Kirby Star Allies has more of a moveset than Kirby and the Forgotten Land because it is in 2D. Whenever you get a copy ability in Kirby Star Allies and you pause it, you get this whole move list of all these different moves that you can use, and that is kind of skimmed down in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And I understand it's because it's in 3D, so you can't necessarily do like certain directional inputs to activate certain moves, but I'll just say an example. The ice ability again that I brought up previously. You can skate and then you can blow the ice, and that's pretty much all that Kirby can do in this game. In previous games, Kirby had a little more to his moveset when he has the ice ability. Like for instance, when he jumps up in the air and uses his ability, then he does a 360 spin and blows ice all around him like this cool AoE attack, and in this game he just constantly blows that ice straight forward. Or the hammer ability. When you're running in Kirby Star Allies with the hammer ability and you use the attack button, you'll do this little spin attack as you launch yourself forward. In this game, Kirby just stops and does his basic hammer attack. So no, I'm not saying that like Kirby Star Allies is a better game than Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but I think that it is a little unfair that everyone really stuck their noses up at Star Allies and said it was this awful Kirby game, and they're all praising this game, because I just think that they're both really good games, really solid Kirby games. Now, I have heard claims that Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a better game than like Super Mario 3D World or even Super Mario Odyssey, and I'd have to disagree there. I think that it's just a Kirby game. So if you hear big claims like this on the internet and you don't normally like Kirby games, I don't think that this game would necessarily change your mind. It still has a lot of the same Kirby tropes that are in most of the other games. The main one being that it is fairly easy and it is for more novice gamers in terms of difficulty. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Kirby and the Forgotten Land or Kirby in general, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll talk to you later. Bye!